Today I'm going to be giving you a full insider's tour of Carmel, Indiana, which has been the #1 suburb around Indianapolis for a really long time, and it's been super highly ranked not only in the Midwest but across the country many times, and for years and years and years. It's a place where you have upscale living, safe living, upscale shopping, easy highway access, proximity to so many things, and award-winning schools, and certainly a city that has been planned for a community feel with its own culture. Now, in this video, we're gonna break down why Carmel is what it is. Why is it one of the top places to live, not only in the Indianapolis metro, but the entire country? What are the things that make it up? So we're gonna go through things like the lifestyle, the growth of Carmel, what you're gonna find in the different parts of Carmel. We're gonna go through the 3 major sections that you'll find in Carmel. Even though you can't find those on a map necessarily as a designated place, they do exist. But then what about the luxury places, the more exclusive places within all of those? What about the family-oriented places within all of those particular areas? We're gonna go through those as well. And the amenities that you're gonna find in Carmel. What types of amenities? How are they spread throughout the city of Carmel? What can you expect with all of that? And then of course, toward the end, we'll get into some of the trade-offs of living in Carmel, because no city is perfect and Carmel isn't perfect. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what a perfect city looks like, because the definition can vary with every single person you talk to. So let's get started. All right, so let's start with a big one. So why has Carmel been seen as one of the top places to live around Indianapolis, or one of the best cities in all of Indiana, and in some cases voted the best city or one of the best cities to live in across the entire country? Why is that? So there are several categories, I think, that make up a personality like that. So let's go through each one of those. All right, so lifestyle and growth. Carmel is not a big city. It's just over 100,000 people, but if you look 20 or 30 years ago, there's less than 40,000 people here. So it's grown a lot over the past few decades. And the way that they've handled that growth has been exceptional. There are a lot of people, not just in Carmel, but also around Carmel. So they've had to deal with that as well in neighboring cities like Indianapolis or Westfield to the north or Fishers to the east. And you get a lot of transient traffic that comes through Carmel. But they've been able to manage all of that. And it's really kind of a benchmark for comparison that other cities use to measure against. It also has multiple walkable and bikeable districts. It has a really strong community feel and really its own culture. And this is something that's been purposely planned over the years. So Carmel isn't dependent upon another city that's nearby to create that sense of community, or its own culture for that matter. Like Indianapolis, just to the south, you're talking pretty close to 1 million people there, over 900,000 people. But Carmel can stand on its own away from Indianapolis as far as culture and community goes. Now, the art scene in Carmel is quite happening. So you have all over Carmel, and especially where I am today. I'm in downtown Carmel, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But you have sculptures like this, which this one's pretty massive, but you have smaller sculptures and smaller art pieces just sprinkled around in not just this particular part of Carmel, the downtown area, but really all over Carmel. So you'll find it in little pieces here and there. And then not only that, it is incredibly clean and super well maintained. So it's pretty easy to go from one place to another and just keep that consistency throughout the entire city. So it really ups the lifestyle that you're gonna see pretty much anywhere in Carmel. So the next thing then would be related to that, and that would be its infrastructure. I mean, it's infrastructure. I don't know how you get any more top tier than what you have here in Carmel. Of course, it is known for its roundabouts. And there's a funny story really that I don't think a lot of people know about Carmel, is that Carmel is the first city in all of Indiana to have a stoplight. And now it's hilarious because there's more than 150 roundabouts in Carmel, and the number of stoplights now, I don't know exactly what it is. It's actually hard to find exactly how many there are unless you go out and count them physically. But there's anywhere between 12 and 15 stoplights left. You have stop signs here and there, like right in here. I'm in Midtown Plaza right now, and there's a stop sign here, and there's a stop sign for cars, and that's because you have a lot of pedestrians, like this guy that just rode by on his bike, and tons of people walking around. This is a Thursday at pretty close to noon, and there are a lot of people here. It's always happening. But this particular kind of infrastructure is also pretty easy to get around. Back to mentioning that Carmel is over 100,000 people, and when you factor in, you have Westfield to the north, which eventually likely will be that same size, 100,000 people. You've got over 900,000 to the south. You've got Zionsville to the west, which isn't quite 40,000, but there are people there, and then Fishers to the east, which is also over 100,000. Carmel is sandwiched in all of those cities. And so they have to handle their own traffic for their own residents, but also other people coming into Carmel or passing through Carmel. Whether they're going to work or going to do something else, you get a lot of transient traffic through here. And the infrastructure is set up so well, it really is, I think you can objectively say that, is that it's really rare when you come into Carmel that you have to stop. Very rare to do so unless you're going to your destination and you want to stop in that particular destination. So in a city like Carmel, it's not like it's never going to be crowded, but it has enough people here to where it gives it a little bit of energy. However, that's a totally subjective thing as to what you think busy is. Most people find that Carmel has a nice blend of a suburb, even though it's a city all on its own, and you'll find people that'll argue that it's not a suburb of Indianapolis, it's its own city. It doesn't need any other cities around it. Next thing is the economy of Carmel. It really has plenty to uphold the economy of Carmel alone. There are major healthcare organizations that you can find here in Carmel. You have IU Hospital and IU Health. You have Ascension St. Vincent. Those are two of the big healthcare providers, and a lot of people do ask that. Are there any major healthcare providers or systems around Indianapolis? And there are numerous major hospital systems, but you're gonna find those two really big ones with their own hospitals, not only in Indianapolis, but also in Carmel too. There are plenty of corporate offices and corporate headquarters in Carmel, so mentioning people coming into Carmel for work, these are some of the places they're going. Maybe they don't live in Carmel, maybe they live in Westfield or Fishers nearby, but there's still people that don't live here and still coming in and adding to that busyness and that traffic that the infrastructure actually does a great job of managing. You also have plenty of tech companies and finance companies that are located in Carmel. So the job market in Carmel is not only one of the strongest that you're gonna find anywhere in the Indianapolis metro, but it's actually one of the strongest that you're gonna find really anywhere in the entire country. Now, of course, Carmel is also known for schools. There's one school system in Carmel that handles the entire population, which is pretty amazing. And they do a phenomenal job at doing that. The high school, which is walkable distance here from the downtown area, has over 5,000 kids. So no matter where you are in Carmel, if you're going to the public schools, that's where you're going. There are private options as well, but the public schools in Carmel have been consistently ranked up in the top 10 in the state for years and years and years. They do a great job with that and super well known with that. And one of the things that helps with that is luxury buyers or just buyers wanting to be in a more upscale and a more top tier type of city. The fact that the demand seems to be continually there, that pushes the inventory of choices, the number of choices down, which pushes the prices up. So it is one of the more expensive places to live, not just here in the entire metro, but in the entire state of Indiana. So what you get in your home, you're not gonna get as much here as you are in some other cities around Indianapolis and in some places in Indianapolis itself. But those factors, that desirability of living here, and you add on the infrastructure and the schools and the safety, it just pushes that desirability up that much more. So people wanting to get in here can see that long-term value, and they can see that their value is going to hold over time and pretty likely increase. Carmel is getting bigger, only moderately though. So it's a little over 100,000 people. It's not like they're gonna add another 100,000 people onto that over the next 20 years. There is just no room to do it. Expanded as far north, south, east, west, all directions. Some new construction here and there, but we're talking about filling in the gaps at this point. And when you want to add more from there, you have to build up. So you can see some more condos, you can see apartments, you can see townhomes that are going to be more vertical. But even that's going to be limited because you have to have space to build those kinds of structures. So when space is limited and the demand is high, the value is going to continue to go up, and there just probably isn't any turning back on that, at least in the foreseeable future. So number 2, the downtown Carmel area and the Arts and Design District, but not just the Arts and Design District, because when I say downtown Carmel, this is a more all-encompassing phrase. And a lot of people will say, well, we just really want to live next to the Arts and Design District. Well, did you know that's only one part of downtown Carmel? For a city of 100,000 people, just over 100,000, the size of downtown Carmel is actually pretty surprising. It has 3 parts to it. You've got where I am right now in the Arts and Design District, and all of them have little boutique shops, they have restaurants. I mean, well, tons and tons of restaurants through downtown Carmel. Some of the best restaurants in Carmel are going to be located right in downtown Carmel. It just depends on where it is. And then you have different living options, which we'll get into in just a second. So this particular part of Carmel, those Arts and Design District, it's going to look a little bit different than what you have in Midtown Plaza, and then also what you have at City Center. City Center is where you're going to find the Palladium, you're going to find the Carmichael Hotel, you're going to find, again, boutique shops, restaurants through there as well, but it's going to have a different look than what you have here in this particular part. But the neat thing is that it's all connected, and it's all bikeable, it's all walkable, and you can drive in here just like I did today. I have to say my parking karma is actually pretty awesome. Usually in a tough parking situation, I'm going to find a spot. Sometimes I don't, but I just have a belief in the universe that I'm going to find one. And you don't need it through here. You might drive a little bit to find a parking spot, but in general, for how many people are down here at any given time, like today, again, this is just a random Thursday, middle of the day. If you drove in here and saw how many people are around, you'd think, I'm never going to find a parking spot nearby. But this is definitely a park that's super popular. It's beautiful. Actually, a lot of the Monon Trail is really beautiful. But you can take the Monon Trail all the way up through the rest of Carmel, through Westfield, all the way up to Sheridan, Indiana, and you could go south this direction all the way down to the Bottle Works district off of Mass Ave, which is downtown Indianapolis. So we're talking over 30 miles in one direction. And it's kind of insane how many people go through just this particular area. This is probably bugging out on the video right now, but cyclists today, there's 347. There's getting close to 64,000 cyclists this year, and we're just halfway through the year. Pedestrians just today on this random Thursday, 786, and over 500,000 pedestrians passed this little point this year. So it is a very happening place. In fact, if you're riding your bike here, you've got to make sure that you're looking out for people. But this pierces, again, that entire downtown scene in all of Carmel. And you go to the north, you go right here in this particular area of the Arts and Design District, and further south to City Center, and south of that, there are neighborhoods that'll connect to the Monon Trail as well. So you could get direct access to it from one of the neighborhoods. You could also be connected to one of those neighborhoods through your neighborhood and get to the Monon Trail that way. Let's do a housing breakdown here. So in the downtown area of Carmel, it can be a little bit limiting because condos and townhomes or that brownstone type feel of living is the thing that's really most dominant through here. Like these condos that you see right here behind me. Definitely, these are a little bit more upscale, but you also have some more mid-level townhomes, but the price, of course, is going to go up. So right here inside of this Arts and Design District, Midtown, City Center, you're looking at prices at $500,000 at the base end, all the way up to $1.5 million, and in some cases more than that. Just depends on the place. There was a place recently in City Center, towards the top of the penthouse, $6 million. Super rare to have something like that. But this is the thing when you drive in, bike in, walk in, is going to be the dominant thing that you see throughout this entire area. Now, just because the condos and townhomes, that style dominates the downtown area directly, it doesn't mean you can't find single family homes, because you certainly can. I just walked past Bub's and to the north on the Monon Trail, and we're talking 2 or 3 minutes at most, and I'm in a neighborhood just to the north of it. And through here, that's all you're gonna find are single family homes. And some of these homes are just, they are spectacular. So this is where some of the luxury buyers go. This is where some of the luxury homes are. And the homes themselves, of course, are gonna be so much newer. They're going to be larger. They're gonna have all of the modern things that new construction homes have. This right here, Old Town, this one's built by Old Town. This is a super popular builder for homes like this in this particular area, and not just in Carmel, but a lot of places too. So you're gonna find that sprinkled around here. And then, like I was saying, you may have some of those older homes. This one here behind me, absolutely nothing wrong with that home, but it's been here a lot longer than all these others. And conveniently, just walking up now to a spot where a home like that was very recently torn down. And you can see now they're preparing the foundation for it here, right here behind me. And you're gonna have probably an unbelievably incredible home built right on top of that spot, just like some of these homes across the street. The neighbor, super incredible home. It's been added on to because it used to be a whole lot smaller than what it is now. So they've added on to the back, just went with that option, and it's a lot more traditional and less modern than what you have in some of these others. So a big mix through here for the most part, but the price, that's not much of a mix. That's pretty consistent. To get into this particular part, it's almost a given you're gonna be over $1 million. And if you're not, then you might get into a home that is bought just for the lot, the space, and it's torn down, and then you have that $1 million or $1 million plus home built right on top of it. So the downtown area of Carmel is, I mean, I think it's awesome. It's incredible, but I don't live here, and the reason for that is the trade-off would be just too big. The location does not work for our family, and it doesn't work for a lot of people. And then, of course, it doesn't work for a lot of people because it's too expensive. This would be suburbia, I would call it, definitely. However, it's still a little urban because you have so much going on around you, so much city going on around you. And you want that walkability, you want that bikeability, you want to be in the mix of all of that. So the types of people that are purchasing these homes, that's their mindset. And maybe they work nearby, maybe they're an executive, maybe they work for a corporation somewhere nearby, maybe they work from home. It can be a number of different people, and it's not just one kind of mentality or person that we see that wants to be in downtown Carmel. We see people who are younger, we see people who are older, we see people with kids, we see people who are downsizing, or at least their kids have moved out and they want something a little bit more like this, maybe a little less to maintain. That would be a big thing in an area like this. Not as much to worry about on the outside of your house. All right, so let's leave these people alone here at lunch at Muldoon's and move on out of the downtown area of Carmel and talk about 2 other places that have a really different personality. That's actually something that people don't quite realize. They feel like Carmel is all one place, when in fact, this whole area feels different and has its own vibe compared to the east side of Carmel and the west side of Carmel. There is no physical border between all of them that you would say, oh yeah, you're in this particular spot in East Carmel at this point. It's just a fact that is fairly well known. So we're gonna go over and visit East Carmel, give you a sense of what the vibe is like over there before we move on from that. All right, we're here, East Carmel. So when or if someone says, can you direct us to some East Carmel neighborhoods, just as pretty good examples, or is there one? Well, no, there's no definition, but this is definitely somewhere I'm probably gonna send you. I'll say, okay, you're leaving Arts and Design District, 131st Street, which is Main Street. Take it to the east. When you get to Brookshire Parkway, take a right, and then just drive down through Brookshire Parkway. You're gonna see several neighborhoods through this area. Brookshire is one of them. You'll see Cool Creek North. You'll see just a bunch of different that are in this particular area to the east of Keystone Avenue, somewhere around Gray Road where it goes north and south. And there's some consistency through here. So sidewalks, I'm walking on a sidewalk right now. Big wide streets with very little traffic, so it's generally really quiet, and a ridiculous Carmel location. It literally took me about 5 minutes to drive from my parking spot near that restaurant in the Arts and Design District. So just trying to give you a feel for what this looks like. Sidewalks, traffic driving by rarely and very slowly, big mature trees, and then the homes themselves, they are not like what you find in the downtown area of Carmel. These are all single family homes, usually 2-level, usually you'll find basements through here, but also usually they're older. These homes are all built in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, and that has to be your thing. So the trade-off of living in a place like East Carmel would be the home is older, if that's a trade-off to you. Space, if you need 5,000 square feet, which you can certainly find in Carmel, you can find in a lot of places, going to be a little bit more rare through an area like this. And the homes here are likely going to need some work. So price point is usually lower through here. You can actually get into this area around $500,000. But if the home has been renovated, if the home's been updated, because through here, I mean, we have seen some museums, definitely. So we're talking old intercom systems. Those are really super common through here. Original appliances sometimes, so like the range and no microwave at all, anything like that. And some of these appliances are 50 and 60 years old. Now the great thing is that in East Carmel, this is so well established and the desirability to live here has been high for so long, and again, not likely to change, but it has to be the right type of buyer through here. They need the maturity. They really want that, and they're going to make trade-offs for something like that. But sometimes an older home for somebody isn't a trade-off. It's just something that you have to be sure of what you want when you come into this place, because you'll have to start prioritizing things because everything is very rarely available. And speaking of availability, the homes through here, the inventory, the number of homes at any given time on the market, it's usually not very high. So the competition sometimes to get into a neighborhood like this or an area like this can be pretty steep. On to West Carmel. Very different feel over there. All right, I've arrived in West Carmel, even though no geographic designation on a map or anything like that, but you can start to find clues in some of the names of neighborhoods that you see over in this particular area. And if anybody asks me, okay, West Carmel, what are some places that I should see, or what are neighborhoods I should go into just to get a feel for what West Carmel is like? And I would definitely say this is one of them, and it's the village of West Clay. So West Clay, it's Clay Township, Carmel is Clay Township, and that particular part of Hamilton County, and we're in the western part of it. So you can see a neighborhood like this, which has some gated properties in here, and it has actually some townhomes in this neighborhood as well, but multi-million-dollar homes within this particular community, and this is a really neat community. It has a little village of West Clay, and there are several restaurants there, there are businesses, shops, things like that. It's not huge, so it's not something that you're gonna find that you can get everything that you need on a day-to-day basis, like grocery stores and whatnot, but it is pretty cool, the fact that you could live in this neighborhood and bike over there and walk there too, because downtown Carmel is a little further away. And this neighborhood is just beautiful, but a really different type of feel than the East Carmel neighborhood I was just in on Brookshire Parkway. So this one is much newer, and the western part of Carmel, for the most part, is much newer. And when I say much newer, I don't mean all in the last 5 or 10 years. This could mean homes that were built in the 90s, but a lot of the homes over in East Carmel were built, of course, a lot earlier than that. So newer construction homes in here. You'll find larger homes in West Carmel as well, especially when you get into some of the more luxurious neighborhoods where you can get homes that are 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 square feet. These are some large homes in places like the Estates of West Clay, which is a gated community, or Laurelwood, where you can find enormous lots and multi-million-dollar homes. So in a place like West Carmel, in general, all of West Carmel, to get into West Carmel, generally you're looking at in the 600,000 range just to get in, and then you can go over $1 million easily. You can get to 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, just depending on the property. But a little more variety in West Carmel in general, given that you have some gated communities through here, you've got individual gated properties, you've got larger suburban subdivisions through here, and with that, you get roads that are quiet, you get sidewalks, you get some neighborhood amenities a lot of times, like a neighborhood pool, playground, basketball court, things like that. So this particular side of Carmel as well is more HOA restrictive. So you're gonna find that those are much more common, and the levels of restrictions you're gonna find vary an awful lot. Now, those people wanting to find the high-end places, the luxury neighborhoods, the little hidden spots, the enclaves of Carmel, places that are gated, the entire community is gated, like this one right here, the Estates of West Clay, like I mentioned just a short while ago, or individual properties that are incredibly private, gated themselves, but still in the middle of this entire mix. And in addition to that, some people want a golf course community, or at least they want the ability to play golf within their community, or just be a part of the amenities, the social membership for a club. Most of those places, like this, or Laurelwood, or Bridleborn, or Village of West Clay, those are going to be found on the west side of Carmel. Golf course communities, you're going to find Crooked Stick on the west side of Carmel as well. And Crooked Stick is nationally known. It's one of the top 100 courses in the entire country. And around Crooked Stick, you have estate-like properties. You have ultra wealthy living around and in Crooked Stick. Crooked Stick is a super prestigious club. The PGA Tour has been there multiple times. The PGA Championship has been played there. The US Women's Open has been played there. And there will be more events that actually happen there at Crooked Stick in the future. But one other place that you won't find necessarily in West Carmel, it's actually more north, and that would be the Bridgewater Club. So a place like Crooked Stick for a golf community, Crooked Stick is very exclusive and very private. And so if that's the kind of feel that you want, that could be more up your alley. The Bridgewater Club though, while it's still exclusive, it is a private club, you have a lot more living variety around this club. So directly across the street, gated community. On Cary Road, which is just off to my west over here, gated community, and individual properties that are gated. And then not only do you have a variety of just living houses, so different types of houses, you can have townhomes in here, you can have single family homes, you can have large estates, and just about everything in between. Prices that are under $1 million to multi-million, but in here it's going to probably be more family friendly because of the amenities here at the club than you're going to find at a place like Crooked Stick. Crooked Stick can still be family friendly, but this is going to be just larger and more welcoming to something like that. But speaking of family friendly, so of course a lot of families move into Carmel and they want to get pointed in the right direction of what are some family friendly neighborhoods or areas in Carmel. And I would say pretty much all of it is family friendly because a lot of the things we've talked about so far in this video. Now this is a great example of one of those super family friendly neighborhoods which are sprinkled around everywhere in Carmel. But if somebody said, give me a really good example of one, I could come up with quite a few, but I happen to be right next to this one here. It's Claridge Farm, and it's on the west side of Carmel, although you can find some on the east side as well too. And when I say family friendly, all of Carmel for the most part is family friendly. But when you move a family into a neighborhood, people have different needs, different wants. but this one right here in particular, and a lot of them are going to come with amenities. And I wouldn't call this particular neighborhood or any neighborhood with amenities necessarily a master plan community, because a master plan community usually has a lot of amenities, and so even shops and stores and things like that. So a place like Village of West Clay would probably be a little bit more like that, but down a notch as far as master plan is concerned, and subdivisions like this one here still do have a certain level of amenities. Now that does come with an HOA and an HOA fee that you have to pay, but amenities like tennis courts, or now pickleball courts, because tennis courts are being taken over, whether that's a good or a bad thing, by pickleball courts all over the place, and pickleball places are opening up all over the country, and here's included, it's no exception. Or basketball courts, or of course the thing that most people are most concerned about or most want is a pool. So pools here in the Midwest, they're pretty common. Sometimes they go a little past Labor Day in September, so the season's a little shorter for a community. But this is a really great example of what that looks like. And then also being family friendly means that your kids can go outside. They've got room to play as well. So the yards in this neighborhood are really pretty large. It's large enough to have a backyard, to have your dog, to have it fenced. That's another thing too about these, a lot of these places, you won't see a tremendous number of fences, at least you think you don't, until you start looking. Fences are super common around here. It's just that not everybody puts one in. One of those last things about being family friendly too is that anywhere you go in Carmel, you're always going to be on a bus route. So it may not be right outside your door, but you can walk down the street, go to the corner, and that's where the bus comes through to pick you up. So it doesn't matter where you go in Carmel, you're always going to have that connection to that particular family friendly focus. So one of the other things people are worried about in any city that they move to is what kind of amenities are they going to have. So with Carmel, there are probably more amenities than what people actually realize. So as far as arts and culture go, I mean, it really has a lot of it for a city of 100,000 people. I'm right out here in front of the Palladium. In fact, when I'm shooting this video, Carmel Fest is going on. So there's a lot of people here next to the Performing Arts Center right now. You may come to a concert or a show here at the Palladium. You could go over here to the Performing Arts Center and see off-Broadway show, play. You could see orchestral performances, lots of things. And people have actually said to me in the past, well, that's great and all, but we may never do that. It's nice to know that it's right there nearby, but maybe we go never, maybe we go once a year. These are the ones in an every now and then type of situation. So you don't even have to live in Carmel to come to something like this. But what about other amenities? So I mentioned earlier in this video, amenities like healthcare. Healthcare is absolutely spread out very evenly through Carmel. You have major hospital systems within Carmel, like IU and Ascension St. Vincent. You have community, which is spread throughout the whole Indianapolis metro. There are a number. But other amenities, especially when you're talking about families, what do they have? Well, I think some of these places are the ones that they go a little less noticed because they aren't prominent places like this one here where Carmel Fest is going on. This is where the Christmas Kindle Mock is actually going on during the winter as well, around Christmas time. You'll see them setting up for that. So what about parks, stuff like that? Well, they're sprinkled through so many different parts of Carmel, and they all have a really unique, very cool personality. So you could have Prather Park, which you have some trails, it's next to the White River. You have Founders Park, which is a little smaller, next to the White River, playground, definitely family friendly. You get to West Park on the west side. It has these super cool rock formations and waterfall and a playground there as well. Those places, I feel like, this is great to see if you want to get to know Carmel, but those are the places that really start to tell you who Carmel is and what Carmel is. The less significant places, I'm not gonna call them insignificant, but certainly less prominent than what you have here. And in fact, our exploration app has all of those places in it. So it can tell you where you need to go to learn not only the personality of Carmel as a whole, but what are the different personalities of the different parts of Carmel, kind of like we've gone through here in this video. So if you're interested in using that exploration app, reach out and we'll definitely get you access to it so you can use it from wherever you are, or you can use it while you're here exploring. Now, we've talked about some really good things with Carmel. In fact, almost all good things, but of course it's not a perfect city. I don't know if that even exists. There might be perfect to somebody, but there's certainly not a perfect for everybody. So you will have some trade-offs when living in Carmel. This one is probably the most obvious when you're looking for homes in Carmel, is that it is expensive to get into. It's one of the most expensive places around the Indianapolis metro. It's one of the most expensive places in all of Indiana. And in fact, it could be pretty expensive when you compare it to just the rest of the Midwest. So your entry-level options usually are fairly limited, and it's pretty difficult to break into Carmel under $500,000. It can be pretty difficult to break into Carmel under $600,000 unless you have some serious things that you're willing to give up on. And that could be the age of the home, the size of the home, where the home is, or what type of home it actually is. Is it a townhome, a condo, a single family home? And that, what we found, is really the biggest trade-off whenever you're moving to Carmel, is the expense and just trying to get yourself established. And then that next thing is that a lot of people are really surprised to find, and they shouldn't be, is that you find a tremendous number of HOAs in Carmel. I mean, a place that looks like this 24/7 all year long, and neighborhoods that are extremely well kept, extremely clean, and very safe. And then the other trade-off too is that while this area and other parts of Carmel might be walkable, walkability means different things. But if you want to walk to a coffee shop or a grocery store or any of the shops that you find here, you're going to be limited on your walkability. There are walkability gaps. Now, especially when you get into an estate-like property, which might be on a fairly busy road, like 106th Street or 116th Street, or even at 146th Street. So those are major thoroughfares, and your driveway could be a third of a mile off of that road and well in the back and well off to where you're private. But if you want to go out and walk, let's say walk your dog, ride your bike with your kids, you really can't. But this particular place and the Monon Trail, the access to the Monon Trail in this place to where you can walk from your house to it, definitely geographically limited. So some people will think moving into Carmel that they're going to have just the easiest access to those things, when in fact, no, you probably are going to have to drive to it. It's still the Midwest. It's still a car-heavy culture, and you're going to find that even in relatively close proximity to places like this in downtown Carmel. Now, the other trade-off is that Carmel's busy. Now, I wouldn't call its traffic exceptionally bad because the infrastructure is really so fantastic, but you will have some traffic. I tell people that Carmel, it has an energy to it. There are almost always going to be people around. There will always be cars. So when you go onto US 31 or Keystone, or if you go to any of the east-west roads like the ones I just mentioned, 96th Street even to the south, 106th Street, 116th Street, 126th Street, 131st Street, which is Main Street, just behind me, up through the Arts and Design District, 126th Street I'm walking toward right now. They will constantly have cars on them. Now, will they ever stop? No, they really don't because of all the roundabouts, but they're there. So you'll have spikes in traffic as well. So whether you're looking for a luxury condo, a luxury estate type place, if you're looking for a townhome or a single family home that's large enough to fit your family, if you don't have enough information in order to land in the right place in Carmel, it can be incredibly stressful and frustrating. Carmel is usually larger than what people realize. So if you need help with your move, with that information, then don't hesitate to reach out. Phone, text, email, and if you want to know more about Carmel or more about the Indianapolis Metro in general, then watch the next video and we'll catch you in the next one.